Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation with Tim Reitsma. Tim is the General Manager of People Managing People, which is an online publication focused on building a better world of work. And he's experienced in people and culture, leadership, business strategy, operations, organizational development, with a focus on building great teams who are excited about their craft and the organizations they're part of. He's got over 15 years of leadership experience, and he's always been guided by his core values of faith, family, curiosity, and fun, which I love that. And he's been a speaker for various events such as the Women in Tech Regatta, the Tech Talent Conference, and at various schools, and is constantly out there and sharing his HR wisdom with the world. So Tim, thank you very much for joining me today.
That's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me and having me here today.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you based?
I'm based in Vancouver, British Columbia. Well, we say Vancouver, but it's really a suburb called Richmond, British Columbia. But people know where Vancouver is.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Well, thanks for joining me. Can I start by asking you to share a little bit about your background, and then we can move on to People Managing People itself?
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit about me. My background has been very diverse, all over the place. I honestly had no intention of leaving my hometown, which is a town of a couple thousand people, but I had an opportunity to go to a university a little bit later on in life, and I was always fascinated with the intersect of people and process. So I studied business operations and spent some time, a little stint of time in healthcare. And then I really developed my craft as well as my career at a tech manufacturing company. I was making high-tech cameras here in British Columbia. And so I had an opportunity there to wear many different hats, starting off in sales coordination, took over tech support, quality assurance. And when I decided to leave that team, I was a member of the strategic leadership team, sat on the executive team. And from there, it took a bit of a left turn, and I had an opportunity to join a small consulting company as a consultant in people and culture. And then from there, ended up as a director of people and culture at a small startup, a small tech company, and quickly realized that being in people and culture has been phenomenal. It was great, but I was missing a different aspect of where I wanted to go in my career, and the opportunity to take over and lead the team at People Managing People came up. I've known the founder for a number of years and had been the resident podcast host for a couple of years before we started to get serious about this publication. And so here I am, the general manager of People Managing People.
Brilliant. I really like the world you came from, that process and operational side of things. Because I remember thinking back to a project I once did where it was a business turnaround. The company was losing money through bad systems, operating processes and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of time spent focused on working with the staff and the leaders on how to get those operations and processes tightened up, and then everyone not just following them blindly, but finding better ways to do things and more streamlined. So I absolutely see the connection between that world and then the HR world or the people management side of things. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think, from a pure business operations standpoint, a common thing that I'd seen throughout my career was people managers or leadership teams complaining that people weren't following process. And often processes were developed without thinking about people. It's just thinking about the systems. So when you actually involve people in creating the process, sort of magic happens. Same with HR, right? If we're developing a new process in a silo, right? Just leave me alone. I'm going to develop this process and I'm going to implement it in our company, whether it's 5 people or 500 people, and then nobody adopts it. Well, why?
Yeah.
Let's ask ourselves what went wrong, what happened. So there's definitely a need and to have that operational mindset. But also, I'd caveat that to not get caught up in the process. Because if we just over-process and over-engineer everything, is anything really going to get done? But it's that balance of digging past the headline it's the system is broken. Okay, we need to fix it. It's like, well, is the system really broken? Like, let's ask a few questions before we just jump in and try to fix something.
Yeah. Is that the 5 whys, not going backwards and asking why this, why that?
Exactly. It's that 5 why technique. It's, people, I was using an example recently of, if a manager came to HR and said, hey, my team's not engaged. Well, why aren't they engaged? Well, why? Let's get to the root of that problem. One of the things with asking why is it may cause people to get defensive. So I would say, mix in a little bit of, well, what's going on? Well, what's happening? What's causing that? And so it almost shifts your mindset a little bit when you're doing getting to that root of that problem.
There's a little bit of that Canadian sensitivity or awareness. So good to mix that in.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So let's turn then to people managing people. How would I call it? A platform, a site? What would you call it?
I would call it, we're an online digital publication. That's
Excellent.
what we are. In this evolution, it will evolve, and it will evolve later this year. But right now, we are really focused on, as you said in the intro, about how we can build a better world of work. And we went through an exercise last year, just interviewing people in our audience and in our community about, what are they struggling with? And there was a common theme about, things are broken. And so we decided to take on this giant task, this giant identity of how we can build a better world of work. So we do this through a variety of different things. We do this through our publication side of our business, which consists of, a little bit of the how-to of people leadership. We find inspiring and engaging writers to provide us content around people leadership, around HR. We also have our tool lists. So again, often we have found that people are, okay, I need a piece of software to implement OKRs, right? Objective key results seems to be, the buzz, and I need a piece of software to help me. Where do I go? So we have the best 10 lists on our site. And so that's what we one of another piece that we do. We also have a podcast, and it's really the how-to of people leadership. And so all of our episodes really focus on that how piece. What is that one thing somebody can do today to shift their business, shift their team? And so that's the third piece. And then the fourth piece, I would say, is our community. So we have a small but engaged community, and where people do ask questions. Hey, how do you like to be appreciated was one of the recent questions. And it was interesting to hear the different responses, because guess what? We're all unique. We're all different. And not everybody wants to hear oh, good job, Ben. Some people, somebody in the community said they appreciate not being interrupted in their vacation. That's how they like to be appreciated. Like, oh, that's interesting. I never thought so. So those are really the 4 things that we provide our audience.
You just took me back to one of my favorite books. It's First Break All the Rules. And that was one of the things that popped up was how you reward and recognize. And an example was maybe a salesperson or some performer was the best in their team. And so they did the big razzle dazzle on the stage, everyone high-fiving and cheering and stuff. But that person was a real introvert and hated that whole thing. So I like that was one of the questions. And I have seen the content on the site. It's very in-depth and very helpful. It does have that practical element as well. So that's very good. On the community side, and then the people visiting the online publications, what kind of people, who's using the site?
That's a great question, and we've done some research into figuring out, who is our audience, and it's really made up of it's a diverse audience. Yeah. We know that HR people from all levels of the organization are visiting us. We know that CEOs and presidents view our content. I had a comment recently from a very large company here in Canada from their president saying, I love the content. Can we talk? I'm like, oh, wow. That's interesting. That's an interesting data point. We also have managers, people leaders. When I say people leader, it's not necessarily HR. It's people who, well, just like our name says, people who manage people. Yeah. And so even in our community, we've had people who are, hey, I'm new to people management. Where do I start? My company has no training program. What do I do? How do I do one-on-ones? How do I assess performance? How do I coach? How do I mentor? How do I create a career ladder for someone? And these are the questions we continually see in our community, but also the feedback we get direct.
I don't know what you think. I think sometimes with conferences, it tends to be bigger picture and fireside chats and where are we going and the future of work and that sort of thing. For more online publications, where it's reading and resources, it moves to a different area of the how to and the practical. This might be, and you've seen that also in the HR tech world, that there's lots more of pulse surveys and simple OKR implementation or ATS, resume screening, stuff that brings it down to the how implementation level. Is that what you're seeing from what you've been describing, both in the content that's being read and some of the comments that you're hearing back from people?
Yeah, it's a lot of the how. How do I do this?
Sure.
So there's some great publications out there, and I think we do this as well, and in some of our content. And a lot of our content is we talk about what we need to do and why we need to do it. But often an article is left with just that. Even at a conference, we talk about here's what we've done at our company, but what I do at my company might not work at your company. So it's great for inspiration, but then what do I do with that? How do I digest that information into something that's actionable for me and my company? And I think one of the beautiful things about people management and HR is there's just so many different ways to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Just before that we hit the record button, we were talking about performance management. There are so many different ways to do performance management. So if I'm at a conference and I hear a company who's doing weekly one-on-ones, regular 360 reviews, feedback, on every week or every month or whatever it is, and I take that to my company, will that work? Will that work for my culture? The answer might be no. So then what? What do I do? And so we're really aiming to put the how into the what and the why. Like that's the lens we're shifting our publication towards, and having our content on our site to really talk about the how. How do I do this?
Yeah.
Another example is, we've heard people in our community talk about a 30, 60, 90-day review. So we've got an article on our site that talks about that 30, 60, 90-day, you're onboarding somebody, we need that plan. But we didn't have a template for it. So we talk about it. We're talking about the what and the why, but how do I actually do this? So we create a template, and it should be live in the coming weeks, because we need to be showing people how do we actually implement these initiatives and these ideas.
I think that's gold. I think that's what people want. So that's good that you're putting it out there, because there's probably not enough of it out there. So that's very useful for people. If I turn the focus then to business growth for companies in the HR space, so the companies I work with will be HR tech or consulting firms in the broad HR arena, so anywhere from diversity and inclusion to talent management group, and et cetera. Do you have a partner with these firms, and how can they raise their brand awareness and potentially win new business?
Yeah, absolutely. We like to pride ourselves as an organization, as a publication that does partner with all sorts of organizations, all sorts of companies, whether that's through our best 10 software lists. So we have a great partnership network through those lists. But if you're not an HR tech company, or aren't looking to be on a list, we accept guest posts. We want to talk with you. We want to hear your ideas. Is there some sort of content share that we can do? We have our podcast. We always looking for great new guests for our podcast. And the thing is consulting companies or HR tech companies all have a unique way on how they lead their businesses or the offerings they have. So absolutely, we'd love to partner with passionate organizations who are really about people who manage people, and who are really dialed in on how we can build a better world of work.
And are there any advertising opportunities for companies to promote themselves? Because they probably want to move away from LinkedIn advertising, which is very, very expensive per click basis, and then Google ads and Capterra, all these different things. they're very crowded. Have you got ways that they can advertise with you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If you go to peoplemanagingpeople.com, you'll see a little ad on the bottom pop up and maybe a little sidebar ad, and that's about it. We've made a conscious decision across the portfolio of, People Managing People is part of a portfolio of websites under the umbrella called bwz.com or bwz.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we also pride ourselves that we have, aesthetically clean looking websites.
It is. It's really nice. Yeah.
So we don't have all these ad pop-ups, and you're not spending. It's like we're not like a look for your favorite recipe website, and you have to close 16 pop-ups just to get to the recipe. That's not our style. But there's other ways. We have a growing newsletter. We have a weekly newsletter that grows incredible every single week. We have our community. We have sponsored content. We're working on a few ebooks. We're always interested in co-creating playbooks and how we can partner with others. We've also done some events in the past, and there is some sponsorship opportunities there, or partnership opportunities, not necessarily just put your name on something, but how can we partner with you?
Excellent. Okay. So if someone listening to this is interested in doing that, what would they do next?
I would say head to our website. There's a contact us form at the very top of our website. That would be the best way to get a hold of us. So on that form, there's basically 3 different sections. There's one if you'd like to write some content, if you'd like to pitch to be on the podcast, or if you just have a general inquiry. But also find me on LinkedIn. That's Tim Reitsma, Reitsma. Find me on LinkedIn, and always happy to have a quick coffee chat and look for ways that we can build some synergy together.
Brilliant. And then lastly, you're at an interesting intersection of content, business, marketing, etc. Would you have any thoughts or advice for companies in the HR space on how to grow in what has become a very crowded space? Have you got any advice for them listening on how they could potentially grow, win new business, that sort of thing?
I think it's for me and for us, and it's been an evolution of getting really clear on that offering. What's going to make you stand out in the market? Because like you said, it is a crowded space. If you're an HR consultant, if you're an HR publication, if you're an HR tech company, there seems to be a HR tech company popping up multiple a day that reach out to us to say, hey, can we advertise with you? It's getting clear on that value that you're offering. There's a book by the author, Donald Miller. It's called The Story Brand. And I just love his philosophy and more than just philosophy, his process. And it's really getting clear on your messaging, right? He says, if you confuse, you'll lose. Yeah. So if someone goes to your website or your publication or whatever it is and are not sure what it's offering, people will leave. Yeah. So that's that first piece. And for us here at People Managing People, we're continuing to hone in on this because we know we've got a really diverse audience. And that's been one of our successes, but getting that nailed down. Yeah. And then, having that clear website, that clear landing page that says, here's what we do, and here's how we can solve problems. It's that, again, this is not mine, but it's from the Story Brand. It's, you want to talk about how we can help people, not saying, hey, check out timreitsma.com because I've won 16 awards. Yeah. How's that going to help me? Yeah. Like if I'm finding your site and I go to your site, Ben, and it's crystal clear what you offer. So it's like, I'm here to help. I would land on your site to solve a problem that I need help with. So nailing that down. Who are you targeting? What's the problem that you're solving?
Yeah, some great advice there. The clarity of what you offer and focusing on the pain points, that's something I talk about probably too much. I probably bore a lot of people, but that's a bit of an obsession. Stop talking about we and I and our, and it's what about you and your situation and how can you help them? The fact that you're an online portal definitely helps because you can start to gather data on who lands on what and where and what types of content and pages and how long they stay and things like that. And you can then segment by user types. I know when I had my own HR consulting business and I would ask for leads, the opt-in form thing, I would segment it by who was HR leaders, junior HR or officer managers, and then students. I forget the 3 or 4 categories I had, but they were designed to segment out because they all have very different needs and requirements. So the fact that you're online, you can do that, and any business listening can do that as well. But the Story Brand book, I haven't read that. I must check it out. Any thoughts on how tech companies in particular, not so much consulting firms, but tech companies can weave a story or make it a little more intriguing?
Yeah, it's taking like exactly like you said, take out the we and the I. Yeah. I'm an expert at employee engagement, so you must buy my software.
Yeah.
It's, hey, we know employee engagement is top of mind right now. We know people are, especially in this remote and hybrid world, are disengaged, linked to some data. We're here to help you drive that engagement, to drive meaningful places to work, which drives profitability. Click here. Like, that tells a story. I mean, I just made that up, so I don't know if it's a great story, but it invites you into a story of, yeah, I'm struggling with profitability. Yeah, I'm struggling with disengaged employees. Yeah, there is a link between engagement and profit. Maybe I'll click for a demo, or I'll sign up to a webinar, or whatever that call to action is.
Absolutely.
But it's getting into that identity of your target client.
Yeah. No, I like that. One thing I do with clients is where we work through their process from start to finish, from A to Z. What does your product do? And where does it end up for the client? And what are the steps along the way? And what are the pain points that they have? Because potentially some of the pain points in the process, does your software or does your service, your consulting business, does it strip any of those things out, either by automating them or by giving them this? Like the classic for me is, whether it be consulting or HR tech, is that the HR person may want to implement something, but they've got to get the budget. How do they get the budget? First, they got to get approval from their boss, and then either they or their boss has to go and present it to the leadership team and convince them. So suddenly you need to do a sales pitch for something that's not even your product. Everyone has the same pain point on that journey of A to Z. So tell you what, here's the slide deck that you're going to use to do that speech, or here's the script you're going to do in the email. Stuff like that, I think, is kind of missed sometimes, but it can be very helpful to smooth the way.
Absolutely. A few companies ago, I took on a project to implement an HRIS, an ATS, and performance management all at the same time.
Wow.
And so it's like, sweet, I'm one person on the team. Let's do it all. And ended up hiring a resource to help. And but it was that uphill battle of that sales pitch. Well, is this going to drive revenue?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then likely it won't get done. So I'd created an article up on People Managing People about creating that business case for HR software. And here's some questions you need to be asking yourself. Here's how to actually go about doing it. And it's even as simple as calculating, how much time is somebody spending digging through Excel files or Google Sheets to find out how much time somebody has left in vacation. At a company, I had found out that the managers had no idea how much time off their teams had. So every time somebody had a vacation request, the manager would say, I don't know if I can approve this, so I'm going to go to HR. Then HR would look at 2 or 3 different Excel files to reconcile how many days they had off to get back to the manager. And this was, times 100 people. And so a simple calculation proved that spending, $6 to $10 a user per month times 100 would actually save the company money just by reconciling. So that simple calculation, that simple process versus that emotional reaction of, we need an HRIS because everybody else has one. And I'm getting fed ads all day through LinkedIn and social media that says I need one, so I must need one.
Yeah.
But taking that emotion out of it, and again, back to the business process side of things, well, what's the problem you're trying to solve? How can we validate that actually is a pain point or a problem?
Yeah.
And so yeah, if you search on our site a business case, you should be able to find that template, and I built a template around it.
Cool. Do you think we could stick the link to that article in the show notes so people can find it?
Absolutely, yeah. But regardless if you're a tech company or a consulting company or looking for a piece of technology, it's starting with, what's that problem I'm trying to solve, taking that emotion out of it.
Yeah. And just to add to that, because it's such a good example, the reason it's important to segment who your buying audience is that the CEO doesn't care that 3 people are involved in finding out, has someone got any days left in their vacation time? On the other hand, the HR person, anytime they see the supervisor walking up, they go, oh no, they hit their forehead as they realize, oh no, they're coming to ask about vacation days. I hate that thing. I don't know how to do Excel. But the CEO doesn't care. So they all have the different situations, whereas the CEO might get embarrassed when they go to CEO events and their colleagues there are saying, oh, so which HR system do you use and how do you use that to do predictive analytics? What do you mean? We use Excel.
Yeah. Yeah. Or pull out a piece of paper and say, here's my complex formula.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, even back to what we're trying to do at People Managing People, and that's build a better world of work. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily focusing at, the CEOs who are, signing the checks, like they're paying, saying, yes, let's buy this piece of technology. But it's providing all levels in an organization the confidence to make that decision. Like another example, which again, might not cost you a whole lot of money, but employees, if you're hearing feedback about a mentorship program, I want to be mentored. And HR then, everything goes to HR. Okay, HR, go figure it out. And HR is like, I've never done this before. But the CEO has caught wind of this and says, oh, that's a great idea. When's it going to get done? So it starts at kind of that ground level. And again, we aim to provide that how, whether it's us or somebody else, but how do we do this? Yeah. And cutting through that noise of being able to provide that value to people, whether you're a consulting company or a tech company who maybe specializes in mentorship programs. I don't know. If you do, I'd love to hear from you. But how do we do this and cutting through that noise and providing that real value.
Very good. And I do have Insala mentoring software coming up on the show soon, but I'll tell them to get in touch with you. So for folks listening to this, I think there's 2 main things to think of. One is check out the site, so the People Managing People site, so peoplemanagingpeople.com. And that's for the content, so the articles, the how-tos, all that side of thing, but also the podcast. The podcast is amazing. It has a very silky smooth host, I believe.
Yeah, he does all right. Definitely has a voice for podcasts and maybe a face for podcast as well.
So there's excellent content there and a vibrant and growing community as well. And on the other hand, you can go there to learn about advertising and to get in front of your potential new customers and clients because, you want to be where the fish are. And so that's a great opportunity to get in front of them and introduce either your content or your services. Well, Tim, thank you very much for sharing all your insights and advice and also some tips for companies listening on how they can grow their own business. And for people listening, again, it's www.peoplemanagingpeople.com. So, Tim, thank you again.
Thank you again for having me. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks and see you next time.